So I'm Italian, and I'm not one of those, white dudes who's like 7th generation Italian and only says it because he's ethnically diverse, even though he's just white. I'm Italian, which means my grandparents came over in the 1970s. And, they just plopped my dad out right out here in Pittsburgh. And it was a hell of a lot easier to go over the Atlantic than the Mexican border. Immigration joke, kind of relevant. Ha ha ha. Anyways, so there's some pros and cons about being Italian. Some pros include being extremely good looking, telling everyone you have a very large penis, and every girl thinks it's really attractive when you speak Italian. Some cons include every nerdy white guy that you can imagine thinks it's hilarious to call you to go and do the impression of some famous plumber I've never heard of. But basically, when my friends find out I'm Italian, here's what happens. It's I'm walking down the hall, and then I hear, "Woohoo! It's me, Mario! Oh, Nico, are you jumping? Are you jumping? Yeah, I'm jumping, motherfucker. Okay, I get it. No, that's some cons. Also, another con is no, that's it. Oh, they also might be calling you Spaghetti Man, but that's really it. I mean, I live in suburbia right now, so it doesn't really fucking matter. No one's actually like, if you're white, it doesn't matter, but, this horrible culture that we live in, ooh, fuck everyone. Okay, sorry. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, being Italian. So, some cons include, the white dudes. I mean, I can bring up so many stories of times that my grandfather and other family members have actually struggled with oppression and discrimination in this country. But here I am over here, bitching about being called Spaghetti Man and Mario and all this shit. And it really just goes to show you that none of us really have it. Like, white people don't ever and will never have it as bad as people of color and actual immigrants right now. The country we live in is pretty, disgusting and frankly, not cool. Okay, this isn't really my bit. This is kind of political, so I'm just Sometimes I abuse my Italian powers. For instance, one time my girlfriend asked me to say something in Italian, and I went, yeah, I can do that. I said, "Ogni notte che mi fai schifo il cazzo e un'altra notte che devi espare peri il tio peccati a Dio." She asked me, "What does that mean?" And I said, "It means you have the most beautiful smile in the world, and that you are incredibly gorgeous." And she's like, "Oh, thank you so much." When in reality, it meant this. Put a clip of that there.
Every night you suck my cock is another night you have to atone for your sins to God.
Yes, I know that's intense, but it's the truth. Another great thing about being Italian is being Catholic. Being raised Catholic, or as I like to call it, being raised a sensitive bitch, is the best thing in the world. Let me tell you some of the great things about being Catholic. I mean, I feel guilty about everything from coveting a car to having premarital sex. I mean, when I lost my virginity, I was unbelievably overwhelmed by guilt, and I was in fear I'd spend eternal damnation in hell. So I did the only thing a true, respectful Italian Roman Catholic would do. I went to confession. I arrived at the church my family has attended for nearly 2 decades to wait in the line for my 8-year-old priest, who I had known for most of my life. I get in line. I sit down, Father Mike goes, "Name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit," and I follow suit. And I say, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It has been a year since my last confession." And he says, "What sins do you have to, reconcile?" or some shit like that. I don't really know. I'm not a priest. And I mutter up all the courage I can, and I'm like, "Father, forgive me, for I had premarital sex." I'm not going to scream it because my parents are right upstairs, and I don't want them to hear it. But imagine there's bricks. So it will be. And I was very, emotional. I was probably tearing up because I was so concerned I was going to, be in eternal damnation the rest of my life. And Father goes, he sits on that and he says, "Nah, I don't think so." I'm like, "What? Why would I lie?" And he's like, to look cool. He's like, all day, I sit here and listen to people bitch and moan and reconcile their sins for having sex with all these people and doing this shit. And he said, but when I do it, it's the end of the world. Tell me that, Nico. What's the deal with that? And I'm like, oh, Father, it's because when the priests do it, you're pedophiles. You know, Father Mike's crying at this point. I had to stay an hour and a half just to listen to his confession. And then right afterwards, we had a quickie. But I'm telling you, being a good Catholic and being a good Italian are the best thing in the world.